Hey, hi everyone. I'm Dr. Randall George Nozawa. They call me the bounce back blind guy, and welcome to new Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine. And I want to introduce to you my co-host, Patrick Herbert. Hello, Patrick.
Hi, how's it going out there?
Wonderful. Yeah, well, I'm in Washington State, and Patrick's all the way down in Houston, Texas, and thanks to all this high-tech stuff, we get to do this wonderful show. This is our inaugural show, and today's topic is fear, pain, and pandemonium. Okay, and yes, this is about what's in the news now, the coronavirus, your COVID-19. And I'm just going to go over a little bit of biology, so all of you are updated, and then from there I'll let Patrick do the running here. Now, viruses are ancient, and they're organisms that are, they can be RNA or DNA, but they don't have a cell, nor do they have cell components. So technically, they're not living unless they get into a host and develop and multiply. Okay. Now, that said, is that what we've learned through the Human Genome Project, that we've got about 23,000 active genes, and then through the Human Microbiome Project, we've learned that we have more than 75 trillion microbes in our gut tube, which starts from our mouth and ends at the end of your butt. And in that tube, we have all these very small organisms. And within that tube, there's digestion, there's elimination, there's extraction of nutrients, there's absorption of nutrients, and creation of 80% of our neurotransmitters. And yes, those are those little cells that technically come out of our brain, but it's mainly in our gut that's being produced there. And basically a connection between our brain, our heart, and our gut. Everything's connected. So here's the thing with viruses, is that what we've learned is that viruses work with our bacteria to up and down regulate genes or turn them on or off. So what that means, everyone, is that without viruses, we will be dead. That's right, we would die. Viruses work with bacteria in harmony, or what we call symbiosis, and in a balance, where it recognizes how to keep us healthy. Now, you may not know that viruses shed, and we shed viruses every day. So just by walking around, I don't care who you are, you shed viruses. Okay, and that is information that's coming from our insides to the outside to educate our outer world, what's inside of us. Now, what people don't know is that animals, plants, rocks and soil, insects, water shed viruses. That's right. So those viruses enter us. So that brings information from the outside world to our inside. So there's a communication, and just smartly put together with this intelligence here, and in further, our shows here, we're going to talk about consciousness. But what happens is it's this neat system in place here, and with all this talk about viruses, and you've been led to believe that this coronavirus thing is bad. I disagree with you here, because without these viruses, like I said, we would die, and we've given one a name, but yet to know if that really causes any horrific damage. Because going back to germ theory and Pasteur, on his deathbed, he agreed that it's not the pathogen that we have to worry about, it's the environment. So that is what's around us, what's surrounding us inside and outside. It's the environment, not the pathogen. One thing cannot cause a deathly illness, that is how we react. So before I let Patrick take over here, understand this, that with all the pandemics in our past, okay, there have been with all of them electrical disturbances that were not created by nature. Our world, we humans, we operate in an electrical field, okay, and that was divinely ordained, and so we live harmoniously in there. So since, especially the turn of the century there, the 20th century, is that electromagnetic frequencies have changed with telephone use of walkie-talkies, and most recent here, the rollout of this 5G thing, which so Wi-Fi and everything from the 1 to 5G have never been tested for safety, nor vaccines have never been tested for safety. Okay. But they're rolling them out, and because of the change in the electromagnetic field, our bodies don't operate well, and a lot of the water that's in our cells have been expelled with these resident viruses that should be enclosed, but they're not. Okay, so now there's an imbalance, and with that, we're more open to inflammation, and especially gut inflammation, which causes, as you know, the leaky gut, and inflammatory cytokines that travel through our body, and lead our immune warriors to certain organs, which cause we attack ourselves and causes even more inflammation. Now, this coronavirus here has been wrongly blamed for deaths, and I'll just bring up this one point: there has not been one corroborated case of coronavirus. And you say, wow, that's wrong. Everything's been, by health officials, indicate that all these illnesses and deaths because of coronavirus. I will argue that there has not been one confirmed case. Do you know why? Because the coronavirus, and there is one, and mutated forms of them, they have never been isolated, never. And you have heard of this CDC test kit, and it's the PCR kit, polymerase chain reaction is what that means. And the CDC admits it doesn't work. There you go, it doesn't work. But curiously, they produce more and more of it and sell them to places all over the US and all over the world, of course for profit. And it is a very difficult test to figure out because there's a lot of moving parts to it. At any of these moving parts, you can make a mistake. So there's a lot of error here, but the CDC admits it doesn't work. So, and in their information packet, they said, well, there could be a virus or there could not be a virus, and whatever is there, it's unknown of what is there, what organism is there, that it may or may not be the cause of this coronavirus. Isn't that something? So a test kit that doesn't work, and the organization that created it admitting that it doesn't work, and also admitting that a lot of false positives come out, and even if something was identified, that it cannot be blamed for the cause of whatever illnesses there are. Now here, so here's what we're doing in our country and worldwide, is that how we identify people with coronavirus is that you have a fever and you cough. Oh, police, okay? I did a lot of that, eating really, just powerful Mexican food that's, very peppery. And like you probably know a lot about that down in Houston there. But I would perspire and I would cough, all because I thought I was really macho by getting the hottest one. I'll take level 5. Yeah. So I coughed and I got a fever, and of course the people I were with, I would I would abscond with their napkins so I could pat myself down. But did I have coronavirus back then? No, I was stupid. I ate things that were too hot. Okay. So anyway, that's where we are now. You have a test kit that is unreliable, yet is still sold. Okay, and we have this thing going on, and we're undergoing, all of us here, especially in the United States, martial law. because I live in Washington State, and our governor has chosen to shut everything down. So if you're, you're a small business owner, you're working out there, basically everything's been shut down, so you can't engage in business. Okay, and we're told to stay indoors, and we're told to stay away from a lot of people, to distance ourselves. Okay, well, you got to look at it like this, because it's if we're shut indoors and we can't do anything, economically this state will fail along with our United States and all. So unless you're wearing like a hazmat suit or one of those extra large sumo suits where you get your 6 feet distancing, it just doesn't work. And besides, we have immune systems that are God-given, and that can accommodate anything. We just got to, give it a chance to be exposed to that. And we've got innate and adaptable immunity, and we have that system in place. So even though this virus here is, there's reports that it could be amended. With other type of virus parts and all that, our immune system, once it's recognizing this new invader, will memorize it and put out the correct immune response. Okay, so that's the biology behind that. So it's like we are being led in a wrong direction, I think, because what happens too is that fear, panic equals pandemic and pandemonium. That depresses our immune system. It will make us sick. Okay? And so we don't need that. What we need is proper leadership, proper information, and allowing our bodies to do what they were supposed to do, which is to thrive. Okay, and then my co-host Patrick Herbert's got all these research details here, and that's why I love him as a partner, and to expand our show here, because all of you need to know, and that's what you're going to get from New Enlightened Lifestyle Medicine is truth. And so you use it the way you want, but with truth, you can make better decisions for you and your family. Patrick.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was an awesome introduction. Very good background. Perfect. You brought up all the talking points that I want to discuss. Being a conspiracy researcher, I always have one eye on the cabal, and of course, everything that's related to that, the New World Order, the one world currency, things like that. Problem, reaction, solution, like David Icke says, where they create the problem, and then they get the reaction. Everybody panics, and then they offer the solution. Hey, we've got the solution here. We're going to create a new world order to handle this global pandemic. And you kind of see this in recent statements by, I can't remember his official title, but the head of the United Nations recently, in an article I was reading today, said we need a global response to a global problem. Now, the United Nations is, of course, a part of the Global Estate Trust, which of course, is its own independent city-state, along with Washington, D.C., and I could get into that in a second, but where I wanted to start off with was to carry on from where you were talking about the CDC test, which is remarkable. I have in front of me right here a document that with the exact paragraph from the CDC. And of course, the CDC establishes the guidelines for how the test should be done. Now here from the CDC documentation, positive results are indicative of active infection with 2019 nCoV. But do not rule out bacterial infection or co-infection with other viruses. So, like you were talking about with false positives right there, okay? So there could be a false positive. It's just like what they say, how do they detect that you have something by the presence of antibodies? They can't figure out how you got it. And that goes, if you go to the Rudolf Steiner material, who talks about, electronic radiation causing, sickness and stuff, that is a disruption to our bodies from 1917 onward. We start to see, okay, so what's happening? And like you had mentioned about the cell, the A virus is an excretion of a cell which has become poisoned. How can our cells become poisoned? Radiation, right? So they'll detect these viruses, they'll detect these antibodies, they'll detect this, and they'll say, oh, God, you're sick. And of course, they don't know exactly with what you're sick with. But okay, so back to the CDC documentation. It says, the agent detected may not be the definite cause of the disease or cause of disease. Laboratories within the United States and its territories are required to report all positive results to the appropriate public health authorities. So no matter if it's fake, no matter if it's phony, no matter if it's a false positive, no matter if you have 9 false positives out of 10, you have to report those as being positives, okay? Right. So we've got numbers without context, and we've got a massive amount of numbers without context. I want to just share how convoluted these numbers are by looking at the numbers for Texas right now, all right? So you've got all sorts of different people keeping track of numbers. You've got Greg Abbott talking about 715 people so far have tested positively as of March 24th. Okay. Now you can also find that on the official coronavirus outbreak map with its, black and gray interface and giant red dots representing virus hotspots on the map. The map itself looks like an exercise in fear mongering because it looks like the entire world is infected when you look on this map. And okay, so you got this map. And it says so many numbers. And this is for this particular map. It's the one at arcgis.com. They don't report any recoveries, just the case incidents. And all of these case incidents, all of these numbers are based on could potentially be based on false positives. All right, so Governor Abbott is saying there's 715 who have so far tested positive. He's the governor, right? So he's in an official position to give us some numbers, okay? The Texas Health Services Department says only 410 people, but then they changed the number to match the governor's, okay? Johns Hopkins University, who has been tallying cases worldwide, says there's 857 cases in Texas, okay? And they said this at the same time that Abbott gave his remarks. The U.S. Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention say 507, but then they down-revised that number to 352. This is all for the state of Texas. So, all right. So, okay. So what can you make of those kind of numbers? It's absolutely, they're insane. Now, one of the biggest things that's really been bothering me about the numbers game here and the numbers without context is, of course, you've got of this amount of, or of these cases, of these numbers, you've got 80% of the population, or 80% of these numbers say they only have mild symptoms, right? And then, of course, from there, you've got the other percentage, which affects mostly people who are age 60 and older, who have more severe responses to this. And then you've got those people who are in the more, in those categories where they're potentially more susceptible to this. They have underlying conditions and illnesses already. So, and as we've been reading across the John Rappaport material that you and I have been exchanging, we've noticed that like the number of people in Italy who have actually died from the coronavirus is relatively small, I believe. And March 19th, he had said, at March 19th, it was the Italian Higher Institute of Health said that maybe 2 had died of actual coronavirus instead of complications arising from a viral infection that they don't know if it, what it is, okay? Now consider, when you see these number of people dead, how many people die a day in a state or in a country of these related illnesses, of cancer, of diabetes, of this or that? A large number of people die per day, right? Yeah. So, but they never, you don't have a map that you focus on, that you look at every day that shows you how many people are dying of whatever in your state. For, typically not. Not anybody that I know consults a map like that, just out of curiosity. So you've got all these numbers without context. You've got these tests, which they're not sure if they work or not. You've got fear mongering through the roof. I'm living here. I've parks are all closed. Well, they're leaving it open for exercise, but they've got all the parks and the benches wrapped with like police tape. like telling you don't use, stay away, you'll get sick if you sit at this bench. So all the bathrooms are open, which are never cleaned, which is remarkable. I thought that to be pretty funny. So, it's like, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at one big major psychological operation against the public for potentially conspiracy? No, I'm not discrediting that people might be sick and might have caught the virus. I'm not saying that this virus isn't new or isn't real, or never would be claiming that it's fake or not. We have something, and something is happening, but what is it exactly? How bad is it truly? All of that is being convoluted by a narrative that is absolutely designed to cause and stoke fear. There's no rational thinking. There's no rational approach. There's panic. Read all the headlines on any news site, CNN, Fox, MSNBC. Same panic. Same, very unique across all the corporate-controlled media, which to me is a big red flag. And then, of course, you have what was called the Event 201 scenario. Yeah. Which is, a very remarkable piece of simulation that happened, I believe, on October 18th. And of course, this Event 201 simulates an outbreak of a novel coronavirus transmitted from bats to pigs to people that eventually becomes efficiently transmissible from person to person, leading to a severe pandemic. The pathogen and the disease it causes are modeled largely on SARS, but it is more transmissible in the community setting by people with mild symptoms. So basically they were simulating this outbreak. Bill Gates and his buddies, with their invested interest in pandemics, viruses, and of course on one end, and their invested interest in vaccines on the other, a very convenient situation. And anybody could look this up at the Center for Healthsecurity.org. This information about this simulation that was run on this outbreak. And like I said, this was done October 18th. Actually, I have that over here. I thought I did. Let me find the actual date. It was October 18th, 2019 in New York, New York. The Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise on October 18th, 2019 in New York, New York. The exercise illustrated areas where public-private partnerships will be necessary during the response to a severe pandemic in order to diminish large-scale economic and societal consequences. Fascinating, if you ask me, because if anybody were to look at any time we've had major, massive, life-changing events that have happened, such as 9/11, before those events had happened, there was a simulation of something. You could look this up online, simulated of a terrorist attack in New York, and this was before 9/11 had happened. I've seen this as a conspiracy researcher, a conspiracy truth researcher, mind you. I have seen this all across the board. And David Icke has documented it very, very, very well. So are we looking at a move by the cabal? I absolutely think so. There's no rational explanation for why there are people panic buying goods like they are. None, especially toilet paper, which is one of the most interesting side effects I've seen of this pandemic. People literally fighting in the streets to buy toilet paper. People fighting in the streets to buy hand sanitizer, this and that, being told all sorts of false information. It's quite remarkable. And now we're willing to shut down our entire way of life, our country, our economy, at a time when Americans can barely afford to get on by paycheck to paycheck. So if ever anyone was planning to crash out a country from the inside, this is the way to do it. And what always gives me pause for thought is the Phoenix Rising. There was in the Economist magazine in, I believe, 1988, they had a prediction for a one world currency in 2018. Okay, and this publication, if you think of the Phoenix Rising, what is the Phoenix Rising? It's rising from the ashes of the old, and the New World Order, as they say, the unipolar world order with one world currency is supposed to rise from the ashes of the old. And we've seen across the board within the past, for a long time, actually. I mean, it's just been, as David Icke calls it, the totalitarian tiptoe. We've seen events like this happen, which have shaped and changed society forever, never going back. We're always going on a one-way street in this direction, which, is leading us in a path towards tyranny. I mean, we have a situation in the United States where recently legislation was signed for, civil asset forfeiture, which gives the police the ability to take anything of yours without any reason. There was a program recently where where military equipment was sold to local police departments. And of course, we've seen a beefing up of the police state. You look at France and the Yellow Vest movement. Look at what was these people protesting were facing off against. These guys are armed like Imperial soldiers from Star Wars with grenade launchers and this and that, and and tanks and like what? This isn't Andy Griffith anymore, where your local sheriff down the street is there to protect and to serve. No, he's there to nail you with a rocket if you step out of line. Not that I'm saying that all police are bad, but we're talking about the police state as a whole, not on the individual level. Certainly there are compassion and there are people who love their jobs as police officers. I'm not doubting that for a second. But we can see it clear as day what is happening in this world and all of these countries, and especially countries related to, what I call the global estate trust, or what Anna von Reitz calls the global estate trust. And of course, Judge Anna is a state superior court judge, and I've gotten a lot of my material from her about, what's been going on in the United States directly. And, because we have a corporate government that is actually, in her words, it is owned by the Federal Reserve, runs the United States of America Incorporated, and the IMF runs the United States Corporation. So that doesn't sound like a sovereign nation to me, if you think about it, being controlled by international bankers. So what's going on? It's really fascinating. It's fascinating and it's terrifying at the same time, because for those of us like you, Dr. Randall, and myself, who's been researching conspiracy-related material for years now since my awakening, and no one else can say it better than, let's say, David Icke, who's been doing it for 30 years. And you watched the recent David Icke material along with me, and he, basically saying the exact same thing. And also, it's unreal. It's incredible. And there's not a voice of reason out there. I'm also starting to see that the alternative media seems to have been compromised, because they're doing the same amount of fear mongering over here. So anyways, so the numbers without context. Also, let's say we've got how many cases in the world right now? It's climbing towards 500,000, right? It's like 400. Last I checked, it was 424,000. So, but that number, they called it the number of infected. There's also a number of people who have recovered, and those number in the hundreds of thousands. But that number is never deducted from the number of infected. So you have the number of infected rising continually, no matter how many people are recovering. And the number that people are looking at is the number of infected. They see that and they panic. They don't really care about the number of recovered, okay? They see this exponential rise in the number of cases. Once again, to remind everybody, these cases are based on a faulty test with false positives. So we don't even know what this number accurately reflects. So this all has to be part of a plan. I honestly think so. I don't think there's anything random about this. The entire media came out swinging on day one. They were all, we like I always say, the false left-right paradigm. We've got the left wing and we've got the right wing, and they are, by the media, designed to fight off against each other as part of divide and conquer. If you've got two sides fighting each other, you'll never have them stopping and looking up to see what's really going on. They're too busy blaming the other side continually. Oh, no, it's the Republicans. No, it's the Democrats. No, it's the Republicans. So it's, no one's going, well, hey, wait a minute, what's really going on? It's nuts. And so, yeah, and like I said, we've got these numbers, and the numbers in Houston alone. There's numbers of people in the area where I live in Houston here, and we're in Harris County, and we have in Houston alone there's 6.5 million people, right? And the number of infected in that area is, I believe it was up to 79 or 80 people. Okay, that represents such a small amount of the population. And and like I said, everything is shut down. I've seen people in their cars with masks on. I've gone to the local H-E-B store, and I talked to one of the employees there, and she said to me that she's never seen anything like it. She says the store is restocked every night, just fine. And then by morning time, there's a line that wraps around the entire store of people trying to get in and hoard stuff. So remarkable. It's really interesting. And that's, and that's, I guess that's what I've got so far. And looking through these numbers and then that event 201 scenario. So I don't know. What do you think about all this? On the conspiracy, what are your thoughts?
No, you've got all this research statistics that I think is very valuable. But what all this is, I'm concerned about is that with continued amplification of fear and panic, that I think there's going to be starting to is more acts of violence out of fear for people trying to either falsely trying to protect themselves or being so paranoid and anxious that when they look around, they might think that people want to either steal their toilet paper or something like that, or transgress against them. And with all the gun owners out there, I think that there's going to be some acts of desperation, which is shooting, which I'm glad that we're doing a show like this, because I can just feel everything's kind of ramping upward. It's pitching upward, and so you keep on amplifying, expanding, fear and panic. Then something's going to happen, because that our survival brain, our reptilian brain, will going to kick in, and if you're armed, you're going to start shooting, and that's what I'm very worried about. And I think the only way, and like I said, our show here is bringing that, is to educate, inspire, and empower the public, because all of us, we have to unite and get smart about things, because you can already see where this outcome is going to go. This is not win-win in any way. It's win-lose. And and kind of like what you're saying, Patrick, I think that there's this supranational, corporate financial cartel that's kind of running things, behind the scenes here. And I think it's that top 1% there that has the finances and the means, and basically treating the rest of us only as objects and remorseless of what they do. And so there's a lot of us. There's almost 8 billion. So if half die, there's still a lot left. And we get to live, and our children and children's children will be born into a situation of enslavement, and that's it. And so if no one asks questions, if no one asks why, or stand up to fight for their freedom, there won't be any. And so that's why I'm so wanting to do a show like this, especially for my children, and for your Alicia, okay, as young as she is. In another 10 more years, she's going to be in the peak of all this, and I want her to have hope, because once you lose hope, that's it. You're pretty much a very good slave. And so I don't want people to be enslaved. I want them to get educated. I want them to become active and not say, oh, the government will take care of me. Oh, my neighbor will take care of me. He's loud, she's loud. I'll just kind of sit here and watch soap operas and, eat my ding-dongs and my Twinkies and things like that. You can't do that anymore. Well, besides, you shouldn't be eating that stuff anyway. But you got to stand up and do something, for your freedom. You got to fight for it. And I think this is really picking up speed here. Since that event 201, with Bill Gates and all that, things are really picking up speed. And I think it's very important that people take this very seriously and stand up for their rights, because soon we're not going to have any. So I'm glad we get to do a show like this, and I'm glad this is our first show, and I just look forward to doing things weekly here with you, because it's this is so important to us, because we're part of this human brethren, And then I think you and I were meant here to team and to educate, inspire, and empower, because we have to exert, this type of, leadership, because people have been lulled to believe that the government, will protect us, and you can have a lot to say about the FDA, CDC, NIH, EPA, FCC, which is probably the most corrupt organization there is, and all of them trying to gain control of us, over us, and unless we know about it, we allow them to do so. And then from there, most of us have become complacent. So we kind of just let them do what they want. Well, I like my freedom. I want to be able to grow. I want to be able to have hope. And I want my children to be able to have hope that in their lives, they have the freedom to do whatever they want, whenever they want, and who they want to do it with. And that comes, with hope and knowing that our freedoms are intact. So, I know, what a great first show, Patrick. Any kind of other suggestions for
I do have
the audience out there?
I wanted to talk about the corporate media. And I know that in our private conversations, this topic has come up before, but I wanted to offer a perspective to all the people that are out there.
Please, let's go.
The mainstream media and all of these channels, okay, that's like a pyramid scheme, and they're all owned by the same, corporations at the top. These people exist to provide you a stream of information that is entirely one-sided. You cannot ask questions. You cannot tell them to stop. You cannot debate anything. They control the debate, and they control the narrative. The mainstream media is shaping people's worldview. That's why it exists. If it is on the airwaves, if it is a mainstream television station, no matter your political disposition, no matter your because one side thinks they're right and they think the other side is wrong. Therefore, the channel that suits their worldview certainly must be the truth tellers. They're not. None of them are. All of them are about giving you a narrative that you cannot debate, that shapes your worldview. It is mind control to the T. You sit on a couch. You are watching an electronic device that is literally putting you almost in like a hypnotic trance-like state. Your consciousness kind of moves to the side, whereas your subconscious is wide open, ready to be programmed by whatever they want to program it by. They bring on panelists. Okay, I like to point this out in a lot of my articles. Okay, they bring on panelists for these debates, and they like you'll see on Fox News, they'll have some conservatives sitting around the table, and then they will have Fox News ones that are liberal or progressive on the other side. But you see, those progressives work for Fox News. So in Fox News, and the same with CNN, they tailor to a specific demographic. When they bring these panelists on, they want to make sure that the conversations they have continue to keep their demographic tuned in. They don't want to go against the narrative or that particular political point of view because they'll lose viewers. So they control the opposition in these debates. You'll have the conservative panel on CNN, but they're very much controlled by the narrative over there at CNN. This is all done purposefully. At the end of the day, too, they need viewers to make money, don't they? But at the same time, they're also controlled by mega corporations that have billions of dollars. So they have the means and the ability to spoon serve you, literally to spoon feed those who sit on a couch in their trance-like states, watching this narrative, shaping their worldview, to do this all the time, 24/7, with the graphics, the sounds, the breaking news, flashing red light, lending itself in your mind to something that's ultra important. Look at this big red flashy graphics that says breaking now. Oh my God, I better sit down and tune in and see what's going on. It's all baloney. It's all fake. It's all manipulation. And it's remarkable that you see it every day. And these are the same groups that are collectively driving this insane panic. There's nothing that can be resolved when people are panicking. Nothing. Never. You can't rationalize with the person who is panicking. You can't do anything that might be in their best interest. So this is where you've got people who are in a state of fear. Well, guess what? Just like you say, who's coming to save them? Big government, right? Big government with all of its mandatory vaccines, all of its genetically modified foods, all of its, that it promotes, all of its, what else? With its bailouts, this and that. Who's getting bailed out again, by the way? Is it the banks? The banks and the corporations, are they getting bailed out again? Taxpayer-funded bailouts, everybody. If you're listening and paying attention, that means that the big companies that have millions of dollars are now getting more of your money out of your pocket while you are still trying to feed your family. And your economy is being destroyed by a group in control, whereas you're not. Well, that has control over your mortgage. So they're saying, so what, is the bank really going to go out of business in the pyramid scheme that we have in this country where all the banks kind of report to the Federal Reserve System? No. Why? The Federal Reserve can print money anytime it wants. Why would anybody go out of business? Of course, that drives the prices upward, and everybody on Main Street gets hurt by this. But hey, they get to bail out all of their buddies over there on Wall Street. So it's another, we're seeing another direct transfer of wealth from all of us who are literally in this country struggling to pay our bills back to the elite. And all under the guise of another, just like when 2008, another panic, something has caused the economy to crash, another recession, this and that happens all the time. It doesn't have to be this way. That's the thing. People they've been born into a system that they believe is real, that because we're all programmed from the time we come out of the womb into our adult lives. We go to school just like you, into your dental school. What did they tell you? Fluoride's good for you. So you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to give it to everybody then. I want to help everybody. I'm going to give them fluoride. And my professor, it's the so I get very passionate about the subject because I love the people on Main Street. They're the people that your neighbors, the people, the mom and pop stores, the people that are important, that care. Not not big pharma or big agriculture, big this, big that. That is dictating to you from a central authority, and everything is becoming centralized in this country. This country was originally founded to be decentralized. That's why we have different states, and then we were supposed to have a very out of the way, small government over there, in Washington, that was supposed to be subservient to the states, not to dictate from the top to the states. And of course, that's been out the window since this entire country was hijacked, beginning in 1868 with the rewrite of the Constitution, and then the subtle changing of wording and lettering in the Constitution, which has large legal repercussions. And then, of course, then this all happened after the Civil War, when the international bankers are coming to bail out the United States of America. But, they're not just going to do it for free, are they? No, they took control. And, in 1871, even though the Act of 1871 didn't make it and they had to try again, but it's still, there's still a corporate government over there in Washington, D.C. And no, it is not a sovereign country. It is not a sovereign entity. And our entire states have been, which I recently wrote about, we have state franchises. We don't have sovereign states. We have state franchises, and these state franchises are funded on the federal level. The sovereign states are no longer funded. They don't have a dime or a dollar. So that's how they basically seize control from Washington of all the states. Now it's one big central government that dictates to the states, essentially. A lot of people aren't even aware of this. I talk to congressmen, I talk to, and you would think that they get taught this stuff, and no, they control the information all through everything. That you really have to dig through the past to see what the heck is going on now, and it's crazy. And of course, if you go to your blog and my blog, there's a lot of it. Try to deliver as much of this information as we can to all the people, and I do want to say that it is absolutely to me, and I'm very excited for our first show, and I hope it does make a difference. And either way, we're going to work hard to make. So that's pretty much all I've got over here. Unless there's anything more that you could think about that we could add. I mean, I could go on for the next 6 hours probably.
On it, of course, I love listening to you because I learn a lot. But no, what a great first show! And to all you watching, please tell your friends to tune in. Okay, and contact me or contact Patrick. But we need to band together. We need to unite to get the kind of harmony that we want. We can't do it alone. We have more strength by uniting, because let us turn all of our diversity into a forward movement. Because yes, we're all different and all, but when our freedoms start to be taken away, we have to stand up and fight for it. And that's what I'm asking all of you to do. So tune in, get your friends to tune in, and let's do this together and learn more, research more. With all that has been said here, go look it up. Get involved in your life, and especially now, besides you, your children, your children's children, and the kind of future that you envision them living. Okay, so what a wonderful show, and we're going to be doing just great ones weekly. Please tune in and tell your friends. Okay, I'm Dr. Randall George Nozawa. They call me the Bounce Back Blind Guy, and with my host, Patrick Herbert. What a wonderful show.
Thank you guys so much. And all the information will be on the screen for you to reach out to us and go to our websites, and we're very grateful. So thank you so much.
Okay, take care. You have a wonderful weekend.